With new mercenaries coming out tomorrow, it's important to look at what is the best builds right now so we can use the new mercenaries to beat the best build. So that's what this video is for, the best PvP builds that you could be playing in Hearthstone Mercenaries right now. And if this is helpful and you want to see more mercenaries content, subscribe. What are you even doing? And of course, you look fantastic. The first build we're going to be looking at here is the Beast build. Now, the Beast build is really good in the current metagame because it kind of counters the caster start, and it does this by using King Krush, Rexxar, and King Mukla. Now, King Mukla is basically there as a taunt, but more importantly, as a way to deal with a fighter like Samaro. You have Mukla's big brother, which is a guaranteed taunt to begin with, and then you use Banana Frenzy turn 1, probably followed by dinner time. But you could also use primal power with King Krush, which is just very powerful. And the idea of King Krush is because Apex Predator always attacks the lowest health enemy, which is almost going to be a caster guaranteed, especially when paired with Rexxar, which you kill command first and then you Apex Predator, which means that caster is going to be the lowest. And then King Krush will often one-shot that caster turn 1, and then because the death ball will proc, it'll go again. Now, doesn't work against Jaina, but you already proc the block to begin with. Proc, was that even English? Proc the block to begin with. And from there, you basically can just win the game and snowball out of control. Now, the nice thing about Rexxar is that Rexxar's Mama Bear Claws, which you should be running with this, will give your King Krush, will give your King Mukla and Mukla's big brother +4/+4 when this is fully maxed, which means your opener is very, very powerful. It works really well against casters, and to basically follow up this composition, we're using the Shadow composition. Now, Vol'jin on his own is fantastic. He's just a really strong caster, and if you're going to be running Vol'jin, you want to make sure you're using the Ring of Haste because it makes all your shadow abilities faster. And if you're playing Vol'jin and you don't have Ring of Haste, stop. Just stop what you're doing, because there's no need for this. Like, you need the Ring of Haste. It makes your Temzin better, and you're running like why Temzin over Natalie. Temzin is really good to just bring out the last rites, which is a very big dude. 25/25 with taunt is great, but also pairs very nicely with Vol'jin if two of your beasts do die, because you can go Veil of Shadows into the Shadow Surge. But on top of that, the last rites taunt is good for Sylvanas, which is your closer. You reclaim souls, which is another +5 because that 25/25 taunt does count. And then you have Death Volley as your equipment. This is a really great composition if you're looking to counter the Karin, Diablo, Varden, Jaina composition that we've been seeing for quite some time, just because of how strong the opener is and how good the closer is. If you don't have Rexxar, you could use Tavish. Not the same thing exactly, because Tavish is a little slower than Rexxar with the kill command, so you kind of need the kill command, but this is a great comp. Would highly recommend you try it out if you have all the characters for it, because you will notice you will probably destroy the majority of comps you go against. Let's go to the next one. Next on the list is the Martin Shadow composition. This is arguably the best comp in the game right now if you're not going to use the Beast one to counter this. And the main idea of this is that you use Vol'jin, Natalie, Celine, Blademaster, Samaro as your opener, and then you follow it up with Diablo, Karin, and Rag. Now, the main idea of starting with Vol'jin and Natalie and Samaro is that because of Ring of Haste with Vol'jin, it makes all of his abilities a lot faster. So his Shadow Shock on turn 1 will be 3. And with Natalie, because you're going to be using the Splinter of Nordrizel, whatever the hell that equipment's called, don't judge me. I swear to God, don't judge me. I will fight you. The main idea here is to just proc the AoE from Natalie Celine, or you can use Shadow Beam if you want, because it will do a lot of damage. And then you use Samaro to double strike your opponent down if you absolutely want to kill the caster or whatever target you're going for. Now, generally, this is really good against the caster. And then if you want, Sass of Illusion is really good to follow it up. You can use Burning Blade to guarantee that you'll kill a caster, but it's basically guaranteed pretty much if you use Vol'jin and Natalie. Now, the nice thing about Natalie is, like, let's say you're going against King Mukla's brother or a turn 1 taunt. Because of the AoE damage, you can kill King Mukla's brother turn 1 with Vol'jin with the Shadow Shock, and Samara will still get the double strike off because of Natalie's AoE still hitting the enemy first. So the opener is just fantastic. And then your follow-up is obviously Diablo, Karin, and Rag. Quickly, because we see these guys a lot, Diablo is just really good right now because of the speed manipulation that Karin provides. You want to use the Black Soulstone because getting extra health is very, very good on Diablo. It makes him so frustrating to kill, and he maintains his threat as a really big evil boy on the board. Of course, with Karen running reincarnation, this is probably the must equipment to have for this mercenary. I don't think if you don't have reincarnation, I'm not sure if it's really worth using Karen, but it's just too good. And then the main idea is you want to just basically swap in between of Endurance Aura and Earth Stomp and speed manipulate your way with Diablo to use his Fire Stomp or Apocalypse. And then to finish off, you have Rag. Now Rag, you want to use Sulfurous just because of the fact the main idea of Rag is that if you're going against a Varden will freeze someone with their passive. You play Rag, they're no longer frozen, and it's like you didn't really have a disadvantage for killing that Varden. Now, Rag is also really good against Diablo. If you're going against a lot of Diablo, but they're not using Varden, you could also use Blazing Runes just to make your Meteor do more damage to Diablo and hopefully one-shot them, and that's the main idea of the closer. Is this comp the best comp in the game? Probably. Can you beat it? Absolutely. Use the beast comp I just showcased. It will just run through this opener. And because you're not using any casters in your opener with the beast comp, tomorrow's not that spooky. You'll be in such a good position to win the game. And that's basically it for this comp. Let's go to the next one. Next on the list is the Frost composition with Varden, Jaina, Tavish, Karen, Diablo, and Gruul. Now, I don't really know why this is called the Frost composition, but that is the main difference between this and the previous one we showcased is the kind of Frost synergy that you have between Varden and Jaina. Now, let's just discuss Varden. For instance, Varden is a very good mercenary just because of the fact they have slow every single turn, but also because of the chilling amulets, which makes them such an annoying character to target because you don't really want to target them because of the random freeze could just absolutely destroy you. But on top of that, if you don't go for Varden, they will just consistently make your life a literal hell, basically, or whatever the Frost version of hell would be, because you just consistently get slowed down. And with Jaina, because she has Ice Block and you need to use Ice Block on Jaina, it's really good because what it does basically is guarantee that Jaina will get an ability off that turn, and then your opponent has to use an additional ability to kill Jaina, which is very powerful. But on top of that, Jaina has the ability to start stacking frost damage. So if they do end up proccing the block, the frost damage does stay for Varden, which will do an absurd amount of damage because you will almost guarantee at least get one proc of the ice flows. And because Varden slows down, you're almost guaranteed to get another proc of ice flows, which means their frost damage is going to be quite large. Now, the nice thing about Jaina as well is that she could be doing a lot of damage. Icicle can do a lot. It stacks up quite nicely with ice flows. And then of course, water elemental is another great thing to be doing because you can freeze a mercenary. Now, it is important to note that if you do attack with the water elemental, they're only frozen with that turn, not the turn after. So you can only interrupt an ability for that turn. They won't be frozen for the turn after, just in case I lost the game because of that interaction. Then you have Tavish. The main idea of Tavish is to use the rigged wiring with the plus health and that your traps last until they're triggered, which means they're not going to be focusing Tavish. They're going to be focusing Jaina or the Varden, which means you start stacking explosive traps or bear traps and do a large AoE at some point. And if he does not get damaged, the aim shot can do a lot of damage to a enemy caster and hopefully just kill them while they're too busy focusing your other characters on the board. And then that's Tavish. Tavish is really good, really annoying to kill. And if he's left there alone for quite a while, which most of the time he probably will, he will just stack traps and do his thing. Now, the ending here is Karen and Diablo. I'm not going to really go through Karen and Diablo again. Main idea, same idea. You're using reincarnation, you're using Black Soulstone, speed manipulation, fire stomp, whatever. But Gruul. Now, I personally have a level gold up, but the idea of Gruul here is to counteract Diablo and Rag. So if you're going against a lot of Diablo and Rags, this is what you want to be doing with Dragon Skull. Now, you get this to +5 fire resistance at the max thing, which may not seem like a lot, but it's actually kind of insane against Diablo. Diablo currently does with his Fire Stomp +6 damage to all enemies for his AoE, unless it's a caster, which crits, which does 12. But if you have fire resistance, it does a lot less damage, which means Diablo doesn't get kills, which means he doesn't get health, which means your Gruul is sitting there laughing. And, you know, Gruul's got some pretty sick skins. Like, look at this. I don't remember when I got the one, but Gruul looks pretty sick. That's the main idea of Gruul. Now, if you're not going against a large amount of Diablos, Gruul's probably not worth the cut. So if you want to, you could put like Rag back in, or you could put your secret tech of Illidan or whatever character you really want. But that's the main idea of Gruul. I think there's a high enough Diablo density on the PvP ladder right now where you can just put in Gruul and you'll do quite a bit. But you'll start to notice how weak Gruul actually is if you don't go against Diablo. But the chance of you going against Diablo is quite likely. Anyways, that's the Frost build. I'm going to showcase one more in this video. Let's go to that. The last build I'm going to showcase here is a build that I came up with on my own. Well, kind of, because obviously the last three are kind of like the mandatory mercenaries. But it's Anduin, King Mukla, and Velen. And the main idea behind this is that Mukla uses Mukla's big brother to put a taunt on the board, which protects the Anduin and the Velen from getting one shot from Samaro. Now, I tried like carry out and I tried other turn one taunts, but for some reason Mukla's big brother was kind of exactly what I needed for some reason. Don't ask. Also, the nice thing about Mukla in this is that he still has the taunt turn 2, which means Samaro's not going to kill your casters, and then you have Banana Frenzy. But on top of that, if Mukla does live, and using Anduin's Ring of Purity, which says whenever a friendly character is healed, gain +5 health, works extremely well together. Because what you do, the turn 1 you penance, turn 1 with Velen you use Holy Blast, turn after you go Velen's Blessing, so you gain +3 holy damage, and your next holy ability cast twice. You do Holy Nova, which means you're getting a lot of life back and a lot of additional health on Anduin, which makes him this basically heroic boss type threat that if they don't kill immediately, he's gonna live forever and never die. Now, the problem with Anduin is I don't have any nice skins for Anduin. I have the boring one, but that doesn't mean anything, right? We want to just make sure our opponent can't kill us, and that's what Anduin's for. The finishers are basically the same idea. If they actually do end up killing Anduin, then we just bring in Karen, Diablo, and Reg, but they use so many resources here that Anduin often just lives, and you could do an extreme amount of damage. Now, the nice thing is, like, against the Shadow build that I showcased, this actually does extremely well against it because they don't actually kill Velen or Anduin fast enough. It works out pretty nicely. Now, I did post a video of this recently. I think it was probably yesterday by the time you're seeing this video, so go check that out if you want to see this comp. It's fantastic. But that's going to be it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure you subscribe, like the video. It would mean a lot. And as always, you look fantastic.